Hey folks, as promised, we got a manga video today. Despite my shift of focus into, mostly novels, I'm still a big fan of manga, still an avid manga reader, and as promised, those videos have not completely gone away. So today I'm going to be talking about a few things that I have been reading in the past few months. And my goal not only to appease a lot of you who are also manga readers, but as new people start to trickle in who might only read novels, then I hope I can introduce you guys to some really cool stories in a different medium. First of those we are going to talk about is Dondadon. This is a supernatural action series by Yukinobu Tatsu. It follows a boy who's obsessed with the paranormal and a girl who is obsessed with UFOs and all things extraterrestrial. They meet and become friends, and it's a good thing too, because they also discover that all of these ghosts and urban legends and aliens that they theorize about are not only real, but are very dangerous. And their world is absolutely full of them. So after a very interesting encounter with a mix of mysterious creatures, the girl Momo develops some psychic abilities, and the boy Okurin loses his testicles. So now it is their responsibility to not only stop all of the dangers facing the Earth, but also help Okurin get his testicles back. So yeah, classic manga premise there. And this series is about as insane as it sounds. In fact, it might be the most chaotic manga I have ever read. And I don't mean that as a bad thing at all. This is an extremely fast-paced story that really juggles all of its elements well. You have a big cast of characters here who we are introduced to and are developed well, usually through a lot of, normal slice-of-life moments that are sprinkled throughout the series. You also have some romantic comedy stuff thrown in there with our two leads. But the series can really go from 1 to 100 in no time at all, as they are constantly being attacked by strange creatures, which lead to some extremely entertaining and well-drawn action sequences. One thing I love about this series is the incorporation of, real urban legends and cryptids and mysteries. While there's a lot of stuff just made up for this manga, there's a lot of stuff that you might recognize as well, so it was really cool seeing some of that in there. We're 100 chapters in now, and this manga has really not let up. I think it has been extremely entertaining so far. It does pretty much everything it sets out to do very well. The use of perspective in the action scene is a definite highlight. It really adds a lot of depth to the art and makes it all the more entertaining. I really enjoy the characters, and I'm really excited to see where the story goes. So yeah, if you are an action fan, we got 3 volumes out in English now. You can read the rest up on Avis's website, and I would highly, highly recommend this one. I'm pretty sure we have an anime confirmed for it, so that'll probably be a big deal when it starts. But if you want to be caught up before then, it's a banger. Next thing I did was catch up to Oshinoko. I was about 30 chapters or so behind on it. It had been a while since I read this one. And because it is one of my favorite series, I really had to get on that, especially now with the anime starting up. And to talk about that real fast, hell yeah. Ever since I knew they were going to be adapting the full prologue into like a movie-length episode, I knew the series was in good hands, and every week we are blessed with an absolutely fantastic adaptation of this story. If you don't know what Oshinoko is about yet, I'll just say it is a series that follows 2 twins as they make their way through the show business industry, and there's a strong mystery element as well. I don't really like to say more than that, because if you don't know, the whole premise, I really think you should go in blind. Anyway, yeah, so I read a good chunk of it, and I continue to greatly enjoy it. One thing I really liked these recent chapters have been doing is giving more development to the girl twin, Ruby. I would say the boy, Aqua, is the main character of the series. He is the one who has gotten the most focus this entire time, but it almost started to feel like Ruby was getting sidelined a bit, as her subplots were never really as integral to the story as Aqua's. Even Ruby's peers who are in this idol group with her also started to overshadow her. So I was very glad to see the focus being shifted back toward Ruby. She got a lot of great development in the section that I read, and has definitely become a force to be reckoned with along with her brother. And it seems like they might be setting up the final arc. I don't know exactly yet, and of course we never know how long these things are going to be, but they are definitely moving into some really big stuff, so I would be sad if this series doesn't end up going for much longer, but Akasaka is so great. I love him so much that I'm very excited to see what he does here. Now, speaking of Akasaka, the man, of course, also wrote Kaguya-sama Love is War, which is my favorite manga of all time. And while Kaguya ended last year, of course, there was a pretty big overlap with that and Oshinoko. He had 2 series going on at the same time. But despite having an opportunity to take a well-deserved break, the man's a wizard, and decided to put out another one. So Love Agency is a brand new manga series from Akizaka. Now, he has, of course, sadly retired from doing art. I mean, I understand it. I mean, in his own words, you know, weekly manga is not easy. So this time he has teamed up with Nishizawa 5mm, who I believe is like a VTuber artist, I guess. And they bring us Love Agency, which is a story, at least so far, about a boy and a girl who have a very hard time talking to the opposite sex. So they reach out to the Love Agency, who connects them with representatives in the form of VTuber avatars, and they get love advice from these avatars who are being controlled by other people wherever. Now, I don't know if I'm in love with this setup, but just knowing where Akizaka takes his stories and the themes he goes into, I can definitely see the potential for this to become another one of his great series as well. As you know, these avatars are like literally telling these kids exactly what to say to each other, which includes lying. They're sort of like building up these fake personas of them. You can tell things are not going to go well, and I'm really interested to see not only how long this whole charade lasts, but how other things are incorporated into it. So yeah, it was a decent first chapter. I thought it was decently funny. But again, if this were not Akizaka, I don't know if I would care to be reading more of it right now, but because it is the man, the myth, the legend, I have a pretty good feeling about it, and I will definitely be updating you guys later on my continued thoughts as more come out. And the final manga we're going to be talking about is, of course, a holdover from my last channel. One of the last things I did there was a vote on what one of my final reviews would be, but I made the promise that I would still get around to the runner-ups, and the first of those was Takimitsu Zamarai. This is a historical fiction samurai story written by Issei Fuku, and was drawn by the one and only Taiyo Matsumoto, who is a very prolific manga artist, with his most famous work probably being Ping Pong, a manga that I absolutely love. He just has such a unique style, which makes him really, really stand out from the crowd. And this is about Sano Soichiro, a masterless samurai who arrives in Edo, of course the old name for Tokyo, and he sort of just sets up shop there, and people are a bit confused what he's doing there, but you know, as he spends more time there, he starts to get to know the people of the town, he becomes a school teacher, and everything's going pretty swell. He's really enjoying his new life. But the problem is that, of course, being a samurai with a quite bloody past, there are a lot of demons that he had not completely dealt with, both mental and physical. Yes, despite him loving his newfound life and his commitment to pacifism, it is very hard to ignore when people from his past arrive and people start dying. So this was a pretty short series, a pretty quick read at 8 volumes. And while the story was pretty typical samurai fare, like it didn't really blow me away in that regard, it still proved to be a very enjoyable time. Soichiro was such a unique character because he really looked at the world with like this weird childlike optimism, which of course makes a lot of people think him odd, but it makes him a really good fit for a school teacher, and seeing, you know, his relationship grow with a lot of the children in town was really great to see. And I really liked learning more about him. His backstory at first is a complete mystery, and as things start to unravel, you start to realize what's going on here. It was some pretty compelling stuff. So while I wouldn't rank it among my favorite samurai stories, I still thought that overall it was pretty good. But where this manga shines, holy mother of God, is with the art. So Matsumoto has his style, and it's great. His style is wonderful. But he actually sorta changes it up quite a bit here, as this entire manga is drawn in the style of traditional Edo art. And that is an extremely cool detail. It of course leads to the character designs looking very unique. The whole manga has this really like timeless historic feel to it. And it is pretty simple to the point where I feel like, you know, a lot of talented artists could pull this style off. However, when it comes to the action scenes, this is Matsumoto at his peak, man. When he pops off in this manga, it is absolutely stunning. It leads to some amazing, amazing moments and some absolute eye candy. And it really elevates what I think would have already been a pretty good series to something absolutely amazing. So yeah, Takimitsu Zamarai, I would highly recommend this to fans of samurai manga, action manga, or just something a little bit more unique. I'd like to thank all the people who previously voted for it, and I hope that one day it does get an English release, because that's one thing I forgot to mention, it does not have an English release. So that'll do it for today's manga discussion. Now, as I said, these are going to be a bit few and far between. I'll just make these whenever I feel like, I'd read enough manga that I wanted to talk about. Some things you can look forward to in the near future. I'll be catching up to Chainsaw Man and Jujutsu Kaisen pretty soon, and also the two other runner-ups that I still have to get to are Land of the Lustrous and Eden It's an Endless World. I don't know when I'm going to be getting around to any of these and in what order, but that's sort of what the future looks like for now. As for the normal content, First Law is next. While I have you here, manga fans, I'm serious. If you like stuff like Berserk, like your dark fantasy stuff, I don't care if you've never picked up a novel in your life, please read The First Law. Holy shit.